Hello and welcome back to the Football Talk podcast on YouTube, on its own YouTube channel now, which is impressive. This will be the first one loaded up to its own YouTube channel and available on SoundCloud, and you can follow us on Twitter at Football Talk, but there's no A in football. But now I've done that little bit of the intro, I've got a guest to introduce because Josh is away this week, so I'm very welcomed. A visiting co-host is my friend Owain. Owain, say hello.
Hello.
And there he is. So do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, Owain?
Well, I'd probably describe myself as sort of poor man's Josh, really. Know a lot less about football, have far less dividing opinions, and am not as interesting or articulate as Josh. So probably going to be great co-host.
Nice, excellent. I like that. Yeah, it's a very honest intro. I would have described you as...
Well, I don't want to lie to people.
Yeah, that's true. Get off on the right foot. Get off on the right starting foot. Of be honest straight from the outset.
Expecting.
yeah, exactly. So, it's very nice to have you here, and obviously thank you for stepping in. And the plan is, in the future, is to have me, you and Josh all on one podcast at the same time, which will be quite interesting, I think. That's the plan. That's what Josh and I have been talking about, and we want to get you involved as well a bit more. So, it's good. But yeah, so we've got a little run through of a plan that we want to go through in this week's episode, to go through our week in football like normal. We want to talk about the new Europa League mini competition. I don't really know how to describe it. That UEFA have come out and said they're planning to introduce a new competition for clubs. So we'll chat about that a little bit. And then we've got Wiki Files. Owain, being the guest, is going to supply me with a player, and I'll have to try and guess who it is. And then we'll be chatting about Owen's beloved West Ham to try and figure out what on earth is going wrong. And I know he's really looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah, can't wait to unpick the misery.
Exactly. But we'll start off. Go on then, mate. You go first. What has caught your eye in football this week, and what have you been up to?
Well, having played my first full home game of the season last week for my pub football team, I'm currently nursing one of the most bizarre injuries I've ever had, really. It was a 3-3 draw against a local village side. We've just moved leagues, actually, so we're playing quite a lot. We used to play just in one place against the same old teams, but now we've moved to a different league, sort of league competition, and so we played quite a lot of villages around sort of the area we used to live in, Dave.
Okay.
Up and around sort of Ashford. And so we went to sort of a little village just outside, Ashford, no one knows where that is. So
Southeast England, down in Kent.
Southeast, yes, yeah, the sunny Garden of England, and we're just playing. So we're playing against quite nice teams and quite nice settings. So that was quite fun. But we battled our way to a 3-3 draw.
Nice.
I say battled our way. When I left the pitch at about sort of 80th minute, because of said injury, we were 3-1. Then the final score was 3-3. So I don't want to point any fingers, but they won't be pointed at me, that's for sure.
Yeah, very true, very true.
So as I was playing the sort of holding midfield role, putting in tackles after tackle, and then what I've done is, most people will, if playing football, will know, once the pitches are pretty hard in September, it's still quite a tough, rough ground underneath, and putting quite a lot of slide challenges in, I've managed to sort of burn off the top couple of layers of skin in a sort of 6-inch diameter circle at the top of my left thigh, which hasn't healed yet, and it's been nearly a week.
Ouch!
Looked like starting to doesn't even look like starting to properly scab over. It's still absolutely agonising when I touch it. So I can't actually play this weekend because if I even touch it, it sends horrendous pain down my leg.
Yeah.
So,
well, my first bit of advice would be
sweet, really.
Don't touch it. That would be my first bit of advice.
Good sage advice, Dave. Sage advice.
Yeah. So, how have you ended up being a holding midfielder? Because when we used to play, you were winger / fullback / striker.
I'm sort of like the John O'Shea of Sunday League.
Oh god, he gets mentioned far too much on this podcast.
Can we talk about his nutmeg of Figo? Should we put that again?
Oh god, no. Don't bring that up. Anyway, carry on. Sorry, I interrupted. Go on. Holding midfield.
So yeah. When we used to play, I'm mostly utilised as a fullback due to my lack of any real available skill and just sort of strong in the tackle, really. But we have started playing sort of 3 at the back, sort of 3-5-2 setup, which means that our fullbacks need to be a bit more energetic and fitter than I am. So, we play sort of wing backs now, so I've moved from that into a sort of maybe sometimes into a defensive midfield, sometimes into sort of like more of a free playing centre back who can sort of step out into that line and screen. We're doing that on Sunday, so it means a bit more running, but I'm a bit fitter than I used to be, but not quite as fit to get up and down the wings for 90 minutes.
I was going to say, the way you're describing it, it sounds like a reborn sort of Philip Lahm. Moved in from full back into a central midfielder, sort of dictating the play sort of role, bringing the ball out.
Yeah, I mean, I've always really identified myself as a sort of Dennis Irwin. But if Dennis Irwin ever played centre midfield, that would be it. That would be me.
Okay, that's I like that description. You don't hear many people that play football describe themselves as Dennis Irwin, so I'd say you're quite unique in that bracket.
Yeah, Dennis Irwin and Tony Hibbert are the sort of players that I most identify with. They're not very good, but they just sort of turn up every week, do the job, go home.
Not very good, but they're around. Dependable.
Yeah,
dependable.
Exactly. Never not going to be there. So
awesome. Well, I mean, so this weekend, I had a game for my team here in Singapore, and we got a nice 4-0 win, which was good. My first clean sheet in Singapore, so we're quite proud of that. We're actually playing the team top of the league as well, so it's put us back in contention for the league title, which is nice. And to make it even better,
what league position are you in?
We're in third, and we're playing top.
Oh,
so it's now put us 6 points, I think, off top. We're like 2 points behind second. So yeah, so if they had won, they would have gone 9 or 12 points clear or something. So, but yeah, so it's pretty good. And to top it all off, I got an assist as well. A classic Sunday League, Sunday League defender. No, it wasn't. It was a classic defender's assist. It was a clearance that I got it as far away from my own goal, and it landed at my striker's, like their defender headed it, missed the header, it landed at my striker's feet and he put it in, so I was well happy with that. And then people...
You claimed it as a pass though, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I claimed it as a long vision. Like, I saw the run. That's what I said when he came back and celebrated.
You're sort of like the quarterback of the team.
Yeah, yeah. I absolutely wish I had that ability. And then from last week's podcast, I left it with a bit of drama about the cup situation, saying that we didn't know if we're going to be in the final, and we're in the final. The other team got disqualified. Yeah, the other team got disqualified and kicked out of the competition for fielding two.
That's how you get to a final.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They don't hand trophies out for morals, do they? Cheaters never prosper. So we get into it. But yeah, I mean, they got kicked out. 2 ineligible players who scored both their goals. So
that really is cheating.
Yeah, so they basically chalked off both their goals and said that we got the draw because it's a handicap point system cup because they're in the division above us. We started with a 0.5 goal head start. So it was basically they put a 0-0 as the result, and we won by half a goal. Yeah. So
amazing. Did you claim that half a goal, Dave?
No, annoyingly, my centre back partner got in there before me. He was like, "I'm claiming it."
Finishing the season and the goal record. So you got Dave Nichols, 0.5 goals.
Yeah, yeah. Mate, I'll take that. If it's positive, I'll take it. Yeah,
take it. Maybe next season you'll also get another half goal and you take your tally up to 1.
Exactly. But so that's my actual what I've been doing in football this time. Is there anything that's caught your news, like your news, caught your eye in the news of the world of football?
Yeah, I was reading the other day that the tiny nation of Montserrat, which is a tiny Caribbean island, they've got about 5,000 people living there. They've played their first international game in 3 years, which I think is pretty impressive. They're ranked like 204th in the 206 FIFA nations, and about 20 years ago. 20 years, not funny. 20 years ago, a horrendous earthquake. Not earthquake, volcano. That's the one.
That's not funny.
None of this is funny. Like a horrendous volcano, wiped out more than half of the island. So everyone just left because more than half the island is uninhabitable.
Yeah.
So people just left. It's a British colony. So loads of these Montserratians came over to England to live, but they hadn't played a game since 2015, which was a World Cup qualifier that they lost. But because they've got the new Nations Leagues going on, they've got the CONCACAF Nations League, they've started playing games again. And they lost narrowly, I thought it was really impressive, to El Salvador. Doesn't sound impressive until you find out that El Salvador are 72nd in the FIFA rankings.
Wow.
So that's a massive step up. And they lost 2-1. They were 1-1 until literally the last minute of the game. where they took literally a last minute winner that broke down Montserrat.
Oh man, that's
the other two.
That's really cool. That's a real good devastating result for the team, but really cool that they've come back and done that. Not having football for so long and coming back and taking someone like El Salvador, like you say, in the respective teams' positions. That's really impressive.
And like the other results in sort of in that qualifying were like 10-0, 11-0, 13-0. So I have like quite a close game. I thought it was really quite an interesting result.
Yeah,
they've got other games. I thought I was looking then at their list of players that played in that game, and you don't know any of them. The highest that I can see, there's Alex Dyer, who plays for IF Elfsborg in Sweden.
Yeah.
There's a few others that play in like the National League South, National League, there's Bostik League. There is a chap called Brandon Comley, who plays for Colchester United.
Okay.
But the most interesting, and he's a player that I'm now going to try and keep an eye on, is the chap who was on their bench called Mika Hilton. And he plays for PC United in the Montserrat Championship.
That's impressive. So they actually
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that. That's wow. That's cool. And at least they're picking like a homegrown sort of player, as it were.
Yeah.
That's really
cool.
A
lot of their players have come through. Like their grandmother had moved from Montserrat, and they're sort of claiming that nationality through there. So a lot of them are sort of British and English born. But it looks like, unless he's moved to Montserrat, Mika Hilton is a sort of Montserratian homegrown, playing still in the PC United in the Montserrat Championship.
That's really cool. I like that. That's a really good little feel-good story of like coming out of really desperate times and forming. Football's great, isn't it? Football's great for that. Football is really good. Yeah, for a good feel-good story. I'm going to bring it back down to a bit more of a depressing figure. A bit more of a depressing thing that caught my eye in the news, and it's about money in football, because football is run by money. And something that caught my eye was that the global spending on transfers alone in football in 2018 is $5.4 billion US.
Jesus,
that is absolutely stupid. Yeah, so from January's transfer window, or January European transfer window, and the summer European transfer window, and then all the other transfers that have happened from clubs around the world in between those times as well, which equates to 4.16 billion Great British pounds. It's just. I
mean, that's just mad. That's just transfers?
That's just transfers. So it doesn't include agents' fees. It's just transfers in world football.
And it is. What it'd be like with agents' fees?
I know. Yeah, absolutely. It is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, but yeah, I mean, that's what caught my eye. We probably should have gone with mine first and yours second, so that it ended on a bit of a high note.
Depressed ourselves there. Oh, great. In football, rubbish. It's rubbish.
Yeah, exactly. It's all bloody money orientated, bloody Robin, and but. So I think that's quite good. I mean, if anyone's got any comments and stuff about the things we've talked about, if you've got any other feel-good stories like the Montserrat story that Owen mentioned there, let us know down below, because we're always interested to read these things. And Josh specifically loves to read absolutely anything about football, so he's always keen to see links to stories and things like that you guys find. So yeah, definitely let us know in the comments below. But with that, we'll move on to the next topic that we want to talk about, and I'm quite intrigued by this, because I think it sort of ties into the football money related issues with FIFA and where football is going and things like that. And UEFA have come out and said that in 2021-22 they're going to probably, and I say probably because it sounds like it's all written down and confirmed anyway, there's going to be a new European club tournament, which is going to be like a third tier of European club football tournament. So they have the Champions League, the Europa League, and then whatever this new tournament is going to be called. Call it? I have no idea. I was hoping when it was announced, I was like, yes, they're bringing back the Cup Winners' Cup, but they've come out and said it's definitely not going to.
Yeah, when I first saw it.
They've come out and said it's definitely not going to be the Cup Winners' Cup. I was like, that's a shame. But so the main questions I've got about it is, can you think of any reasons why? Why, and your thoughts on it? If you've had any thinking about it, I mean, have you read anything about it? Have you read much about it, or?
I've only read a little about it. There's not much in the way of coverage about it, because I think they're not really saying a great deal about it. I mean, my initial thought was with anything to do with UEFA or FIFA is money, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's going to
obviously
be quite heavily led by they want to increase some revenue in order to, so you get like smaller nations are going to have more progression in that competition, so they'll pay for TV rights for longer. So they'll have like a wider spread of TV money coming through.
Interesting,
I guess is one of the things.
Well, it's another competition, so more sponsorship, general sponsorship, and things like that. Yeah. So.
But then I guess that's quite a cynical way of looking at it, which is fair enough because that's kind of what football's done to us recently.
Exactly, I agree.
Made us into cynics about the whole thing, which is a shame really because that should be the beautiful game, and instead it's just this corporate greed machine. But so without trying to like look at it without being cynical about it, it does reduce the amount of teams that are going to go into the Europa League, which I think is going to go down from like 48 to 32.
Yeah, the group stage will go to 32, which I think makes sense.
Because you were getting like in Europe, you were getting like Group Z and Group J, and thinking that's too many groups.
It's like on Excel when you've gone too far on a spreadsheet and you get to column AA. Yeah.
Oh no, we've gone too far. New sheet is needed.
Yeah.
So from that respect, it's quite a good thing because then like that it kind of makes the Europa League a little bit less of a joke, because I think that's another reason they're trying to do it is to like make the Europa League less like the rubbish Champions League and more like a sort of a competition in its own right. What they still need to do as a sort of slight tangent is stop, and although maybe they've done this already, stop the Champions League dropouts just dropping into the Europa League. Because that makes a bit of a mockery of the whole system, doesn't it? Like,
I do agree with that.
League, but the Europa League's already there.
But is that going to happen just on a new scale? Will it be if you don't qualify for the Champions League, you go to the if you get knocked out of the third place in the group of the Champions League, you go to the Europa League. So if you finish third in the Europa League group, then you going to go to this the third competition, and it just it keeps the sort of that ridiculously going. Oh, well, you weren't good enough for that competition, but you'll get another go. But it's like, well,
but these teams are rubbish, so you'll probably be right. Yeah, I feel that's like if you had to go and you weren't good enough, then that's it, you're done. And let these other teams that have got there on their equal merit continue to play through. So I'm not sure what that'll do, but at least the Europa League should then benefit from having a smaller pool of teams, and it should mean like I don't know, you're going to get teams like it might eradicate the sort of ludicrousness of West Ham got into the Europa League once by just not getting so many yellow cards, so that hopefully that means there'll be sort of like a bit more merit to get into these competitions rather than it being a bit of a farce. And then you're going to get teams like, and the team that popped into my head, which you'll probably get cross at me about, was MK Maribor. Is it MK or NK? NK Maribor.
Yeah.
They're normally a sort of proverbial in and around Champions League, Europa League sort of team.
Yeah, they're normally a team. Yeah, Champions League qualifier, and then they don't get through the qualifying rounds, and then they drop into the Europa League, the last round of the Europa League qualifying. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder whether the nations like that will have another team then entering into that smaller competition. So like Maribor are usually the champions of their division. They'll go into that. They'll probably go and still do their normal thing. But then maybe the second place team will go into that, and then you've got like more of an incentive in their division, in their league, and their sort of national competition to be finishing second and third, rather than just we finished them, nothing ever happened.
Is that not though? Because obviously the teams that finish second and third or whatever in these smaller nation leagues, is that then not going to just sort of create what's happened in the Premier League, the Spanish League, the Italian League, and all of them, where you just then get 4 or 5 teams that dominate every year? Because it'll be you sort of think with the prize, surely this third competition in UEFA is going to have prize money, which means it will go to the teams that qualify for it, which then means they'll get more money than the rest of the teams in the league, which means they'll be able to compete in this competition more often and get more money, and it's that cycle of so every league in Europe is now just going to have 4 teams that dominate it every year.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because then you look at any competition, there's got to be an incentive to win it, and teams aren't going to play for the trophy alone, really, because most teams now run as a business. It's back to that cynical view on football where it's all about the money. I don't know. I feel like it's. I think you're right. I think like that it will only perpetuate that, won't it? Like money will be the driving force for anything, and then the teams that become successful will continue to be successful, and the other teams will struggle. But I just think that it might give smaller nations with not as high a standard of football as those big Champions League nations an opportunity to be playing in the European Championship, because those European Championships are really exciting. I mean, I went to watch us play against Dom Zale, West Ham play against Dom Zale a couple of years ago when we were in that Europa League qualifying series from just not getting many yellow cards. And even though it was it was like the middle of summer, it's still August I think, like middle of August, but then brand new stadium, brand new. Just knowing that you were playing against a team from somewhere you'd never even heard of. I think they were from Slovenia.
They are, yeah.
It was just exciting. So I think like that's it's a good. I like European competitions because I think it's exciting. And then you usually play them at night, and that's always bizarrely exciting for some reason. So I think it's good in that respect. It depends how it's going to be run and the sort of way in which you can qualify for it. Because I was wondering, I don't think it would affect the Premier League, would it? Because
I highly doubt it. Yeah, it's from what I've read.
Good league.
Yeah, it's going to be those smaller nations that, like you say, don't really have the opportunity to go deeper into European competitions as it is anyway. So you're looking at like Slovenia League, Lithuanian, Slovakian,
but also
Israeli.
Like our sort of surrogate Welsh team, Bala.
Yeah,
they're probably going to be heading towards that third competition. I
don't know, because the Welsh league winner, well, Bala might, because they probably haven't. I don't think they've won the league, have they, Bala, ever? But
I don't think so. No,
because the Welsh league winner goes into the Champions League qualifiers, so that's what I mean. It depends how much it cascades. But the Welsh league winner goes into the Champions League like second round qualifying.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I assumed they went to the Europa League ones.
No, they go. They do go into Champions League. But it does open up that possibility for a second or third place team in the Welsh League to potentially go into the third competition. Or they might change it so the cup winner from the Welsh League goes into this third competition. But yeah, it does. It's hard to not, like you say, football's sort of drilled it into everybody that loves football now. It's been drilled into them that everything that Uefa and FIFA do is for monetary purposes. That's why it's done. That's why these decisions are made. So it's hard not to be cynical, but at the same time, it is good to see them doing something for the smaller teams. But I always feel like, who is it that I think two names I read somewhere that sit on the board of this panel that's helped make the decision. Yeah, that's it. I've got it on the article in front of me. Andrea Agnelli, who's the European Club Association president, is on the panel. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Also on the panel was Juventus's chairman. I mean, why does he care what happens to lower teams in different nations? And then the guy that's just bought Arsenal, is it Gazidis? Even Gazidis? Or is selling Arsenal to the other guy? He sits on the panel as well. It's sort of like, what have they got to do with anything in like other nations of football? Surely it should be the countries that are going to be in this league or in this new competition.
You'd hope they would talk to them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd like to think so, but again, it sort of just stinks of.
There was someone that was complaining about it, wasn't there? I can't get the article. Oh yeah, here we are. I remember. It's called the European Leagues, which is the organisation that represents 32 leagues across Europe, including the Premier League. And Scottish Premiership and the English Football League said they didn't like it. They were going to fight it. So they're not happy because this is something that's been prepared and cooked up by UEFA and the ECA without proper engagement. So when I said I hope they would talk to them about it, it looks like they haven't talked to them at all.
They haven't talked to anyone. Brilliant. Okay, fair enough. I mean, it's so hard not to look at it in a cynical manner, isn't it? It's so hard to not look at it and just think it's UEFA trying to get more money. Because the other thing that's just literally come into my mind about it is, if it's all for the smaller leagues and nations and things like that, which is great, generally the inhabitants of those countries aren't as well off as the teams in Europe. So they're not really English football fans are generally quite well off because they have to be to afford the ticket, generally.
It's ludicrously expensive,
Yeah. So I know that football in Slovenia, for example, is a lot cheaper to go and see a game, but are people going to be able to afford flights to go from, let's say, NK Maribor, have to go to Lithuania or, I don't know, Netherlands, Wales, let's say? Are they going to pay for the flight? Are they going to go to the game, or is it just going to be a pretty dead atmosphere It will just be the home fans.
Home home fans. Yeah, no, it makes this interesting. Like, you're never sure. Although you should never try to predict the limits of football fans, because like some football fans are absolutely insane and will, regardless of the cost, they'll find a way to go, won't they?
That is very true. Yeah, that is very true. There are people out there that do that. So there are people that flew from London to Singapore just to come and watch Arsenal in their pre-season friendly here. So, which is mental.
One of those people was you, Dave.
Yeah, apart from I'm not an Arsenal fan.
made up a job that you're going to Singapore. It's
yeah. I just really, really, really wanted to see Unai Emery in an Arsenal outfit.
Yes. Yeah. I just love Unai Emery. I love all his teams, everything.
But so it'll be interesting to see what other people think. I mean, I've got on my Cultured Left Foot YouTube channel, I have obviously a lot of Slovenian followers where I did my NK Maribor series, so it'd be quite interesting to get like you guys' opinions if you're listening. What do you think it entails for nations of your sort of size and league reputation and things like that to understand what do you guys think about this? Is it something you're interested in, or do you you're not really that bothered?
Is it would you rather spinner?
Yeah, but would you rather? But that's the thing. Even if it's a money spinner, wouldn't someone like NK Maribor, for example, get more money if they actually got into? Let's say they fluked into the Champions League group stage, like which they did previously, and they got drawn against Chelsea, and that gave them huge money, like a huge amount of money. But
did they? Because you get like £500,000 if you win a game in the group stage, don't you?
Yeah, you get like 30 grand or something if you lose.
Yeah, and you get something like 200 something. I'm channeling my Football Manager knowledge here.
Yeah.
Of just the prize money, but then that's just prize money, isn't it? And you've got like TV money, you've got like the stadium income, revenues. So yeah, I suppose are you better off to try and get in the Champions League than we? Because I remember the Europa League prize money is like it's not even 10% of that. It's really, really small. So, but then if you're a small club and you get 50 grand if you win a game, that's probably quite a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, we're not accountants, so yeah, it's hard to like do the planning of it.
One time we need Josh.
I know. Yeah, the one time it'd be really, really useful to have him on the pod. No offense, Josh. I love you being my co-host, but yeah, this would have been really good for you to be here. But okay,
he'll be knocking up a spreadsheet somewhere.
Oh, he will. Yeah, he would have done all the stats. He would have seen the running order on the chat we've got, and he would have been like, "Oh, well, I'll get these stats ready in case they need them." We haven't asked him once, so
we don't need them.
No, but I mean, have you got? Yeah, is there any other thoughts about it? I mean, it's the only other thing I can think of is that it's still. I know it's not affecting the Champions League and it's only affecting the Europa League, but it's still sort of hints at the elite trying to pull away into this. I know they've said it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen, isn't it? Eventually, a European Super League is surely
Super League. Yeah,
it's surely going to happen at some point, and it's sort of, sort of hinting at already sort of a case of you're in a minor league where we're not actually that. Here's your own little European competition that you can go and get involved with.
Don't with the other peons.
Yeah, it's like don't worry about us. We'll be at level 1 and you'll be down
at the big boys to their own table.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, again, it's me being cynical, but it does sort of seem that way, especially when you have people like the Juventus chairman and the Arsenal owner on a bloody board making decisions.
Decisions to keep their clubs in the elite.
Yeah. It always just seems a little bit off in my mind, but anyway, have you got any other thoughts about that, or we'll move on?
No, it's making me a bit upset now.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll move on. So, I mean, because it doesn't even make West Ham's chances of getting into Europe any easier, does it?
That was my first thought when you mentioned it, actually. Like, maybe if West Ham finished 12th, we might get in. But even if we did, we'd still lose in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, don't be all glum. We'll get onto that in a minute. Right then, let's move on to the wiki files, and we still haven't had a decision on a theme tune for the wiki files.
I was going to say there's got to be a theme tune, right?
Well,
I'll make a theme tune.
On the last episode, we had the wiki files to the tune of "Who Needs the Quickie Mart" from The Simpsons. Which was I started singing it, and I think that would be quite a popular choice, so we'll go for that again. The other one, the vote that we had against it was Josh introduced the game when we were at school. There was a game you could play called Who's Boobs on Liquid Generation. So Josh tried to do that with wiki files. I don't know where Josh pulled that from. I reckon he's been searching that website back and keeping up to date with it for 18 more years or whatever. But yeah, so Josh brought that one along where it was those whose stats, not my stats, or your stats, whose stats for the wiki files. But yeah, my favourite one is the Quickie Mart one. Who needs the wiki files? Here comes the wiki files. I've got the wiki files for you. So with that, let's get on to the wiki files. Right, Owen has sent me.
That gets my vote.
Yeah, I think that's the one that we're going to use. Owen has sent me a player, and I'm looking at him right now. So, oh my word. Okay, this is what I have in front of me.
I think you're going to get this quite easily.
Okay, I'll go through the stats, see what I get. From 1999 to 2001, he was at Internacional, which is in Brazil, I think. 40 appearances for them and 7 goals. Then he moved, he got a big move to Barcelona in 2001. He was there for 4 years. 45 appearances for Barcelona, scoring 3 goals, of which he spent the last 2 years of his deal at Barcelona on loan at Sporting. Again, making a good number of appearances, 46, scoring 10 goals. I'm immediately thinking midfielder with a goals to game ratio. 2005-2008 at Middlesbrough, 68 appearances. Okay, that drops off, doesn't it? 68 appearances and 5 goals. 2008-2009 back at Sporting, 1 goal in 20 appearances. Then to Gremio, 3 goals in 69 appearances, and then he moved to wherever the hell Dalian Aliban is, and scored 7 goals in 51 appearances. And then in 2014, he has a club that doesn't have a link on Wikipedia, which is always impressive.
I saw that.
And he doesn't even have question marks on his appearances and goals, so I'm assuming he didn't. Normally, that always gets me when they have question marks, but this one doesn't even have anything. For Ipiranga de Passo Fundo. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 2014. No season.
Is he still playing? Is it because he hasn't told when he stopped playing? So. Yeah,
I don't know. They normally have a little line that means it continues playing. But okay, so who moved? So his actual transfer was from Barca to Middlesbrough. Do you know what? I think I've got it, and I think you've been very, very unlucky. Because on my channel, I've just started a new Champ Manager 0102 save, and I think this guy becomes an absolute legend on Champ Manager 0102.
I thought you might get it.
It's a midfielder, isn't it? You're unlucky because my Champ Manager 102 save is with Barcelona, so he's in my current squad. I'm pretty sure. Is it Fabio Rochenbach?
It is Fabio Rochenbach.
Yeah! You're very unlucky because if I hadn't have started that save, I wouldn't have got that. I really wouldn't have got that. Yeah. Wow. I can't believe he moved straight from Brazil, Internacional in Brazil, to Barcelona.
Yeah, he was only 20.
Wow, okay. Did you have have you got his wiki page up? Do you know what his international stats are? Did he get many caps for Brazil? I can't really remember.
He got 7 caps for Brazil.
Okay. Not too many. I guess he had a lot of competition.
Yeah, I mean
in that era.
Early 2000s Brazil team, yeah.
Yeah. So
I can tell you that he joined an amateur club, which is the one Passo Fundo.
Oh yeah.
They're the ones that eat. Yeah.
Has it got any more about the date?
Club. yeah. So it does tell you actually. He joined them in the Passo Fundo Amateur Club, and he just won the amateur tournament held by the city in 2014. So I think it was just he played for that team just once in a tournament that the city held, and the other team, that team you couldn't pronounce, are a Chinese Super League team.
Oh, okay. So he rocked up.
Yifang.
Yeah, he rocked up to an amateur tournament and just went, yeah. Don't worry, lads, I've got this.
No. Well, yeah, it seems like he just got off the bus, but he was looking to get a coffee. There was a football tournament going on. He's only 36, so he's still pretty good.
Yeah. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you got any memories of him playing for Middlesbrough? Because all my memories of him come from Champ Manager. So.
I see. My memories of him are so. Was he a winger? Was he a right midfielder?
No, it was a centre midfielder. It was a central midfielder, like a sort of destructive central midfielder.
I always remember him being quite fast.
Yeah,
you'll know. You'll have his Foot Manager stats. So I think it's my knowledge of like I said at the beginning. I'm sort of like the sort of poor man's Josh on this show. So my knowledge of him, because I knew that he wore red. Initially I was searching, and I couldn't remember how to spell his name. I can remember it was Rockenbach, but I couldn't remember how to spell his name properly. So initially I was thinking he played for Charlton, but he didn't. He played for Middlesbrough. So I was looking at Charlton players. So my other guesses, I mean, I won't tell you what they were, but my other Wikifile player could have been a Charlton player. Now the other one that I didn't go for, but was one of my all-time favourite players of that era is it was Gravison
Thomas Gravison.
for Everton.
Yeah, it would have been too obvious because he's probably the only player I'd recognise
Wait.
that's gone from Everton to Madrid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I brought up his wiki file and sort of looked. I was like, it's so obvious. Like, it's so obvious. But I used to really enjoy him being a horrible player in a sort of fun, he's going to kill you sort of way.
Is that what you're? Is that how you're going to mould yourself in holding midfield?
I mean, it's got the hair. I think he's probably. I don't care so much to be that aggressive, really.
No.
I always thought him and Roy Keane in a fight would have been quite impressive.
Oh yeah, that would be brutal.
Mostly just see Roy Keane get battered.
Oh no, I think it would be closer than that. I think it would be.
Well, yeah. All right, true, but
Depends how many drinks Roy Keane's had, probably.
That's true.
Keep him standing up.
How naughty is it, Mick McCarthy?
Yeah, that's probably the more important factor. If Roy Keane's pissed off with anybody else in the world at that point, he can take it all out on Gravison.
Presumably, with Roy Keane, he's always pissed off at someone.
That's very true. Yeah, that is very true. So, well, there we go. Well, thank you very much for that wiki files. I say, Owen was, when Josh and I were describing the game in like the first episode, Owen was the mystery friend who was on the road trip to Bala when we were on our way to Wales.
Yeah, did he even get a mention?
Yeah, he got annoyed by that.
I was furious.
We didn't mention him. So Owen is one of the co-creators of the Wikifiles game. So it was great to have him on and great to get involved. I say it became a whole like. I'm trying to remember it in the car. It was a whole point system, wasn't it, that we had?
Yeah,
like
well, if
someone.
If you guessed it like you guessed it, I think you got 3 points.
If you got it first off,
just from the from his career, and then it would reduce down to the points afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. But yeah,
so 3 points. Well done.
That was 100. Yay! Excellent. We were keeping score at the beginning, and then we forgot what one week we forgot what the score was and didn't go back and listen to it, which would have been the sensible thing to do. And now we've just stopped doing the score.
If the recording was somewhere we could hear it.
I know. If only the recording was stored somewhere forever. But okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for that Wikifiles. Next week, yeah. Thank you very much for that Wikifiles. So, we'll move on to the next topic of discussion. Which
do we have to?
We have to, because what Josh made a very good point when we're doing the transfer window ones. Like, this thing of plane. It happens about people were saying West Ham have won the transfer window, and Josh said it's not normally about winning the transfer window. It's normally about how if you do well in that transfer window, but then they do better in like January or the next year where they've had a season to settle. And I said a lot of people mentioned that Everton won the transfer window when they signed like Sigurdsson, Rooney, Davy Klaassen, and all that last season.
Making a great deals.
And it seems to have, it seems to have repeated itself at West Ham somewhat. So I'm keen as a West Ham fan to understand, what your opinions are on the whole situation. Who's to blame? Why is it going so badly? What's gone wrong? So please inform us all.
I mean, I'd say the win in the transfer window, I think is a nonsense. But on paper, you can see why people would have said that, because we made some pretty some pretty impressive signings. Just the scale of them, really, because we signed something like 9 new players and spent out on some decent names.
You beat a lot of other clubs to certain players, like Philippe Anderson. Yeah, I mean, he was pretty highly regarded. Came from Lazio, pretty good. We paid I can't remember now. It's about £30 million for him. 28 million with add-ons before add-ons, But the trouble you've got. So Philippe Anderson, Issa Diop, Andrei Yarmolenko, Fabian Balbuena. These are all players that on paper look fantastic. Philippe Anderson is like. It looked amazing for Lazio last season. He was pitching in with goals and assists. He's creative. He plays in that sort of like in the hole front three sort of player. Loves the ball at his feet. Loves running with it. And has looked like in patches to be a pretty handy footballer. You got Andrei Yarmolenko, who could be incredible. Yeah.
He sort of dwindled. He was really inconsistent. Struggled a bit with injuries. I mean, we could add Jack Wilshere into that if we're talking about injuries. Someone who could be brilliant but struggled with injuries. But the point I'm trying to make is that we've got Issa Diop, who's a young French centre back, captain of the under-21 side. You've got Fabien Balbuena, who was captain of Corinthians, another really sort of decent ball-playing centre back. You've got these 4 players that are coming from having absolutely no experience playing in the Premier League to being dropped into a side who are not particularly robust in their way of dealing with failure, who have a lot of expectation put on them by the fans and the media. I think the media find it a nice, easy story to give a bit of a dig at West Ham, because West Ham fans bang on about the West Ham way all the time, and no one's really sure what that is. So I think press have a nice go at them for that. And so you've got them coming in with a new manager as well. I mean, all the players coming in with a new manager. You've got Pellegrini's come in, and he plays a totally different way of totally style of football than our last 3 managers, who would have been David Moyes, Slaven Bilic, and Sam Allardyce.
Yeah,
that's a massive shift from like Sam Allardyce and Bilic. Bilic played a little bit on the floor, but really we just played it on the floor so that Dimitri Payet would get the ball. As soon as he left, we really didn't know what we were doing at all, and we started lumping it long to Michail Antonio again. And then you got David Moyes, and he was just in there to put out fires, and he did a decent job of keeping us solid at the back, but being completely lacklustre anywhere but defensively. So, we're trying to play football on the floor, which is difficult because we're not used to it yet. But so I can see the point about the transfer window I think is valid. We did look like we did pretty good business.
The thing,
Ryan Fredericks.
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, the thing that struck me about the transfer window, and it's very hard for me to watch Premier League football out here, so I catch the highlights on Match of the Day when I can of all the games and basically pick one game to watch, and it's generally the Man United game. But like the transfer window, what I was really confused about with West Ham is when they were spending all this money and getting in, like you say, which is like good players with potential that you can see could be very good, and then sold their only holding midfielder in Chiarte. Was it Chiarte? He sold? Yeah. Checky Chiarte. And then didn't replace him.
To another Premier League club. Yeah. No, we didn't. Well, we did replace him. We did replace him with everyone's favourite Aston Villa's midfielder, Carlos Sanchez. He didn't exactly set the world alight at Villa, did he?
Right, okay. Has he played this season? Has he actually played?
He has, yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, Dave, he has played. I actually took the whole family to watch West Ham versus Wolves the other weekend. For the boys, it was the first, live football match they'd watched. Trying to mould them into West Ham fans, and we played Wolves. Thought that'd be right when I first bought the tickets, thinking that'd be right.
Yeah.
New team up, we might get a result. Forgot the Wolves are really good and really rich, and we watched 87 minutes of kind of the worst turgid football I've ever seen. Then Carlos Sanchez, who was playing in the holding midfield role, dallied on the ball, tried to turn it once too many, got tackled. They played it out to Adama Traore, who was in acres of space, and he smashed it into the goal, and we lost 1-0.
Excellent. What a family day out.
That's been Sanchez's involvement, and that is coming to your point about us selling our defensive midfielder. I think the biggest problem that we've had in that we've bought a lot of attacking players and a lot of defenders, and I should mention actually at this point that Lucas Fabianski has been unbelievably good.
Oh, he was a great signing, yeah.
Played in. It would have been 10-0 in every game we played in if that wouldn't be him. He's looked so good. I've been so impressed with him. But we bought defenders and we bought attackers, and we bought no one in between. So we bought Jack Wilshere as a midfielder, who's great, but he's not defensive and he's very, very slow. And so I remember watching the first game of the season against Liverpool, and certainly the way Liverpool play is they don't have anyone pushing right up. They have all their creative and attacking players are in that middle between the defenders and the midfielders, finding space, and they could find so much space in that hole there because we just literally didn't have a player there. We had Mark Noble and Jack Wilshere who had stood one side of them, and then we had a defender stood the other, and they were just having the time of their lives in that space with absolutely no one near them. So there's definite lack of foresight in that we sold Cheikh Kouyaté, who, to be fair, hadn't been at his best for about 18 months. So I could see the reason in getting rid of him. And 10 million that we got from him from Palace was a decent price. It happened too late, and we weren't quick enough to replace him. So Carlos Sanchez looked a bit like a panic buy towards the end of the season. It was a deadline, not end of the season, deadline day. Panic buy. So.
I mean,
it's difficult to say what's going wrong, really, but I think that's one of the big things. We need more solidarity at the back and in that midfield holding role.
Yeah, do you think? Now, this is me, obviously, as an outsider. I'm not a West Ham fan. I don't get to see the football every week or match. Well, I don't get to see the games every week. But is Mark Noble?
Should we go? Yeah. I knew you were going to ask this.
Should Mark Noble be in the Premier League at all? I mean, he's looked pretty terrible last season when I was watching the Premier League every week.
He's and that is. I knew you were going to ask that. I mean, I was preempting that question because, he has looked for a little while quite off the pace, and I think the general feeling amongst West Ham fans is that because obviously he's been at West Ham all his life, he is the epitome of the West Ham boy. He's like like Matt Le Tissier stayed at Southampton for his entire career. Trouble was Matt Le Tissier was really good. I think a manager needs to be brave.
The thing I'd say with that comparison is that Matt Le Tissier also played in a position, and he was never expected to be any sort of defensive sort of barrier. Mark Noble doesn't have the mobility to be that defensive player you need, and should, in my opinion, shouldn't be anywhere near your first team.
No, I actually agree with you because I think. It's sentimental. He's our club captain. He's been there all his life, and I think that's his reason for being involved in the team. But actually, there's too many occasions, and like you said, last year there was so many occasions where he'd have the ball, and it would just be his next pass was just pass straight to the opposition or straight out of play.
Yeah,
he's not quick enough to get himself out of the trouble he puts himself in. He's not. Mobile enough to get around the pitch, so he's not. It's not like you can class him as a box-to-box midfielder. It's not like you can class him as a deep-lying playmaker because his passing's not good enough. It's not like you can play him as a defensive midfielder or ball-winning midfielder because he doesn't tackle well enough. He's a sort of, like you say, should he be in the Premiership? Maybe he's a sort of lower half of the table Premiership midfielder, which I suppose you could argue is perfect for West Ham. But realistically, I think his best season was 5-6 years ago when West Ham were in the Championship. He looked comfortable in that position. He was a quality player in the Championship. So I think without that sentimentality, if we bought him 3-4 seasons ago, he'd been gone by now. He'd been sold without a second thought. But I think club captain, West Ham boy, he needs to maybe be thinking, I need to either adapt my game or step aside here because. I think the acquisition of Jack Wilshere was really good. And in fact, when played against Wolves, when he did get the ball and he wanted the ball all the time, he was in that that sort of like Pellegrini described it as the Pirlo role, which I think is slightly ambitious. But he was dropping. It was when Fabianski gets the ball, he was dropping right back to the edge of the penalty area to get it, playing it, turning it, knocking it forward. He was trying to be the pivot to everything, and I like that about him. I think Jack Wilshere's a really good player if he keeps his fitness up. But having alongside him another player who's not going to put any defensive work in and is pretty suspect positionally is just a recipe for disaster. So I think we've got to play Carlos Sanchez and hope that he learns from his mistake about dwindling on the ball when he just needed to play it.
What about
anywhere?
The youngster? Is it Declan Rice? Like a centre? Is he a centre back? He's tried to because he played in midfield a couple of times, I think, hasn't he? Or tried anyway.
Because he's a ball playing defender. Like he likes the ball at his feet and he can pass quite well. So that's the natural step up there for a centre back. Then is like, well, can you play in that defensive midfield role? And he's looked all right, but he's very young and technically he's playing out of position. And I think it's not fair to put that much pressure on such a young player. Like the whole entire hopes of our season resting on your shoulders, mate. Like that's difficult to do. What would be a better idea? And it would need, I don't know, some careful management really, would be to have Sanchez and Declan Rice as two holding midfielders, which would give our fullbacks, which is either Cresswell or Masuaku on the left, and then Fredericks or Zabaleta on the right, would give them license to bomb up the pitch, which they love to do anyway. Like Fredericks loves getting forward, and we just didn't see that enough in the times that he's played against Wolves, because they just haven't got the faith in our midfield to keep hold of the ball. So we need some sort of defensive screen, really, that's going to protect us. That means that players like Yarmolenko, who doesn't like defending, people like Mikel Antonio, who doesn't like defending, people like Marko Arnautovic, who doesn't like defending, Lanzini when he's back, who doesn't like defending, all these players can get a bit more freedom up front to be a little bit more, right, well, actually, we'll stay a bit higher because we've got 6 players behind the ball now when we lose it, but we need to be pushing forward and getting those chances when we do have it. So
yeah, okay.
I don't know. I think what's happened is we've had a lot of new signings who need to adapt and need to learn, and that was the other big thing about the game against Wolves. In the first half, we had all the ball. We had absolutely, I think we had something like 60-something possession in that first half. But every third or fourth pass, we gave it straight back to them. We passed it behind each other. We passed it out of play because you can see they weren't able to know how each other plays. So I'm hoping that with a bit of work and that every day on the training pitch, standing will develop, because what we're trying to do is play football on the ground, which is something we've not seen at West Ham for a long time. We're trying to be like aggressive and attacking and sort of expansive in the way we're playing. We're going to have to be patient before we can get there, because it won't happen overnight. We haven't got the quality of player already at the club for that to happen overnight, so it's going to have to be worked on, and players are going to have to adapt and learn different roles and different techniques to playing. So hopefully by Christmas we'll be seeing some improvement. We play Everton on Sunday, and Everton started really well, so I'm not hopeful about that. Like going to Everton to get a result. We haven't. I saw somebody. I think it was either you or Josh posted us.
Yeah, the Football Talk Twitter. Yeah.
Like we've only won 3 away games in, like, I don't know how many, 3,000 years or something. So it's hard to get away wins. So a draw would be nice, something to be positive about, something to hang on to. That would be good. But the problems we're facing, I think, are fixable, because I think the players we bought. I mean, Yarmolenko, when he came on against Wolves, he looked really good.
Yeah,
he was getting into the right positions.
Signed from Dortmund, didn't he? So he's going to have some pedigree.
Yeah. I know that his like you say, his some pedigree that has diminished in the last few years. That there was a point where he was the sort of hot topic of football, European football, but his injuries and his inconsistency kind of cost him. But yeah, I think I'm hopeful. That's the problem. It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? Because I'm always hopeful that next week will probably be better. There's always next week. Next week we'll turn it around.
Is that the West Ham Club? Is that the motto on the West Ham Club badge? It's the hope that kills you.
Well, I think "Fortune's Always Hiding" is the song, isn't it? And I think that's kind of as apt as possible. It just needs it to gel. I think if it gels, then we should be all right. We've got enough quality in that team. We just need to start. The problem we had, actually, in that game, to keep banging on about this, that Wolves game, the one game I've seen this season, that's why I keep banging on about it.
That's fine, yeah.
About a minute and a half before Carlos Sanchez dwindled on it and gave them the goal, a lovely, lovely little interplay between Javier Hernandez and Marko Arnautovic. A lovely little give and go from those two. Opened Wolves up so easily, like a knife through butter. Arnautovic was in, through on goal, slightly right hand side of the area, and I thought, for all the world, this is a goal. I would have put my house on it. And he hit it as hard as he could, I think, and it almost knocked Rui Patricio out. In fact, he was then laid prone on the floor for about 2 minutes. I saw that,
yeah. I did see that.
And it hit him square in the face. Like, when you wear a football, it hits you like that one. That classic 90s football, the ball smashing that person's nose in. It hit him so hard in the face, like, it must have absolutely caned. But if that had been like 2 inches left or right, that's taking a nick off his ear and going in, and the game's won. Wolves' hearts sink and we just hold out. It turned on that tiny little incident, and then we wouldn't maybe be having this same conversation, because we would have picked up that first home win and we could something to build on. So I just think
that's very true.
A bit more luck, really.
The little minute details of it all to say, this one little change, but it's like 2 questions I always have for like West Ham fans, and I do have a couple of other friends that are West Ham fans, and one of them's always the Mark Noble conundrum, of which most West Ham fans are coming round to that now, and being like, he shouldn't.
I think that most people are starting to see it now.
The second one is always about the owners, the Davids.
Ugh,
like,
the
The Dildo Brothers, yeah. Like, what's up with that? What's going on? Because obviously it came to a head, didn't it, with the protests
Yeah.
at the stadium and
Yeah.
things like that, and it all got a little bit ugly, and that was fine. And there was this like famous now footage of it pans to the director's box, and it's just Trevor Brooking sitting there.
Yeah, because they've all left.
Yeah, they're all left. Now, from outside of it, it was a thing of the protests were more about not so much the running of the club, but more, well, the decisions over the stadium will always be a talking point and a disagreement between the fans and the owners, but it was more about investment. So is it dissipated somewhat because the club have technically now invested in a lot, or is there still quite a lot of animosity to the owners?
I think there's definitely still a lot of animosity. The trouble is that now there's not a lot of football fans are always looking for the easy reasons, the easy scapegoat, and that was when they're not spending enough money in our club, and they have spent money now, and it's still not much. So fans are still angry, but they just don't know why yet. So when the new scapegoat comes along, it will certainly be they'll be angry at the owners for something else.
Yeah, okay.
So I think there's still a lot of animosity because I just think the owners don't do themselves any favours. Like, there's David Sullivan, who when Allardyce was our manager and Moyes was our manager and Slaven Bilic was our manager, be going and appearing on Sky Sports News, talking about them, and you thought that at times would be sort of criticising the manager, publicly criticising our manager.
It's
not a way to run a football club.
Yeah, it's not on, is it, as a chairman?
It makes it look like often people describe West Ham as like a tin pot club, which I sometimes see the merit in that, and that does make it look absolutely like a tin pot club, doesn't it? You've got your owner bitch whinging on Sky Sports News. You've got David Gold, who, I mean, he's very old. He's discovered Twitter on his phone, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's always posting stuff up. He posts a lot of nonsense, and you think he needs to just not be on Twitter, really, or just don't let him tweet, because he posts a...
Yeah, he does post a lot of drivel. Which one has the son that also posts drivel?
Dave Sullivan. So he's got his son. He's got both his sons are on Twitter. His other son is now like the chairman. His youngest son, I should say, is the chairman of the West Ham ladies football team, which is the biggest display of nepotism I've ever seen. But he posted a lot. I don't know if he does it as much now. But he was sort of like, I think because he was about a 15-year-old boy, and the idea of like breaking West Ham transfer news first was quite exciting to him.
Yeah,
probably
okay.
Made him quite popular at school and things like that. I say in a very patronising, teachery way. So I think that might have stopped a little bit. I have to say, I did follow him for a little while on Twitter, but I just stopped following because he irritated me. They don't. I just think the two Davids, they just don't do themselves any favours. It looks as though now, with the sort of acquisition of Manuel Pellegrini, that they might have a bit of respect for him, because he's done quite a lot in his career. He's managed some very high-profile teams. He's won leagues. I know that you could argue that he's walked into very successful football clubs and just need to stand there and go, win the game, which you could argue he did with City and Real Madrid. But even still, he's managed some big names. He knows what he's doing. He's got an idea. He's also come in and made some big changes. I mean, the first thing he did was come in and balk at the state of our training facilities, and basically demand that they were completely upgraded and reinvested in, because there wasn't enough pitches at our training facility. I mean, bearing in mind we had to move training facilities when Slaven Bilic was in charge, because I think we were at Rush Green, and the pitches were so bad, the players were getting injured. He said they were like rock hard, but wet on the top, but rock hard underneath. He said they were awful. Hell. So we moved. That means then there wasn't enough room for our youth sides or under 21s to train alongside our first team. So no wonder we have so few players coming through the academy now, if they're not even able to train alongside our first level.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I think I can't remember. He said something like, I think when he first arrived, he was absolutely shocked that he'd have to get changed alongside his other coaching staff. They'd all have to get changed in a small room that fit about 6 people in there. He was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not doing that. So I think what he's done is said, like, we need complete reinvestment in the training facilities. So if they put their money there, they're the sort of things, unfortunately, the fans don't see. There's not that instant gratification. But if we can upgrade our training facilities, it makes such a difference. We had some decent pitches to play on. We had are able for our young players to play alongside our senior players. I think that would make a huge difference. So I think we've got to stick with Pellegrini, partially because of his great ideas with those sorts of things, the sort of more professionalism he brings to it, and the fact that he is a manager of great experience and has done a lot with his career, and the fact that we have to pay him £10 million a year, so getting rid of him costs us a fortune.
Yeah, I think it would be a very silly idea to pull the trigger quickly. I don't think there's even been any rumours, has there? There has not even been any moving in the betting market or anything to say he'll be the next manager sacked. So
people are already saying, idiotic fans on Twitter that are always saying Pellegrini out. 4 games, like we've lost to Arsenal and Liverpool. We're always going to lose to Arsenal and Liverpool. The 2 games that are really disappointing are the Huddersfield game because we led that game, and then the Wolves game because we should have won that. Really, they were better, but you've got to allow time for them to improve, for them to be gelling as a team. Like if you think about Football Manager, Dave, which you do frequently, you've got to get their familiarity bar up, haven't you, on the techniques and the training, and you've got to have that team harmony. You've got to do those sorts of things. So I'm going to give him till Christmas before I start really panicking, but we do need to start picking up wins.
I think
or at least points.
With the squad they've got, I can't see West Ham going down. I can see them doing like an Everton last season, but without changing manager. Like you say, I can see Pellegrini turning it around himself, but I can see it being quite touch and go at certain points in the season.
Yeah, I think we've got to make the London Stadium. We've got to make that more of an intimidating place. It was silent when I went to watch. And
really, okay.
To be honest, I've never really. I mean, I went a few seasons ago. I mentioned watching that game against Donzale. I've never really seen it, and that season I went to all home games up till Christmas, and I've never really seen it really like Upton Park used to be like, which was noisy. It was much noisy. It wasn't noisy all the time because West Ham fans have always been a little bit quiet, and then it raises and suddenly the noise takes off.
Yeah.
The only time I've seen it, we played Watford that season, and we went 2-0 up. I don't know if you remember, Dimitri Payet did like a Rabona cross, which Mikel Antonio headed in. Header in.
I do remember that one. Yeah.
The place was jumping up, and that was amazing, like to see, because then you had like 50,000 people jump up on their feet, jumping, shouting, cheering, and for 10 minutes it was just noise, absolute noise. It was full of noise. It was incredible, like goosebumps on your arm sort of thing. And then Adrian did something mental, and Troy Deeney scored, and then it flattened out, and then they scored again before half time, and then they scored twice more in the second half. We lost 4-2. So you can sort of understand why the stadium is full of sort of pensive, anxious silence, because we're just waiting for something to go wrong. So I think we need to, and then the stadium thing is a whole other. We're talking out a whole other hour about the problems with that stadium. But
there probably will be a podcast in the future about stadiums and things like that, because obviously we have to wait and see what happens with the new White Hart Lane or Tottenham Lane or whatever it's being called. So
at least that's a stadium built for purpose, not adapted.
True, very true. So so the last thing I've got about West Ham is, I think this is the first, I might be wrong, but this is the first season I understand that you've got a director of football as an actual line between the manager and the owners.
Yeah, because before that, the director of football was David Sullivan. He was in charge of our transfers, which is, which goes some way to think like, we signed Jordan Hugill from Peterborough or something, and he was, utterly terrible. I went
Preston
to watch,
North End for like 8 million.
That was it. That's 8 million from Preston. I went to watch. We did like an open training family day. Took the family up to see that. Again, trying to indoctrinate them. And we watched them do a shooting drill. And the shooting drill was essentially the last thing they did as a sort of like bit of fun, basically. And the idea was like, played the ball, got played back across the area, they shot. If they scored, they went and sat down and had a drink. And it was the last player, the player that didn't score, obviously lost, had to do like a lap of honour. I don't know, do something silly. And that player was Jordan Hugill, who didn't put a shot on target.
Who is a striker,
He did that. Yeah, he's a centre forward, and in the training he didn't put a shot on target.
Oh wow, that is
awful. It was
yeah.
awful. So now we have that the director of football who has worked with Pellegrini before.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference in the transfers that we've made. We signed a lot of good players. Admittedly, they're not doing very well at the moment, but on paper at least, some really good players, and you can see it's obvious.
They're Pellegrini players.
From the difference. Exactly.
Yeah. It's not just a random sort of scattergun approach to he's got a big name, or he looks cheap, or that sort of player looks good. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can almost certainly guarantee that if we didn't have Pellegrini and a director of football, then Yaya Toure would have been at our club this season, earning an absolute packet for one season.
Yeah.
Before going off to China, we tried very hard to sign Emmanuel Adebayor a couple of years ago, which would have been fine. He would have rinsed the club of money, scored a few goals, then gone off somewhere else. At least the signings we're making are at least slightly thoughtful from the future perspective. Ryan Fredericks is quite young. Jack Wilshere's only 26, I think. Owain is only 28. Issa Diop's still young in his early 20s. Felipe Anderson's still in his mid-20s. So there's at least some future proofing going on at the club now, rather than just like a sort of like, well, he's 36, but let's whack him in, it'll be fine, sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. I guess as a fan, that's good to see that as well. That it's obviously you sounded quite upbeat then about the transfers, which is good. I just wanted to say. Sorry, just before you get onto that, before you mentioned like Jack Wilshere's really slow. He is really weird. He's the only player I think I've ever seen that runs faster with the ball at his feet.
Yeah, when he's on form, Jack Wilshere seems to glide with the ball at his feet. I used to love watching him for Arsenal, and I remember he scored that absolute worldie for England that time. He just got the ball, glided past a couple of players, and then just smashed it top corner.
Yeah.
When he's on form, I think he's a magical player to watch. He's just had such a problem with his injuries. I remember seeing an interview with him where he was bemoaning the fact that of his injuries. But actually, when you look at, he said, if you look at all my injuries, they're all impact injuries. He just gets a bang on his leg, and it's a really bad bang. It's not like he's got a dodgy knee that keeps going. He just gets a clatter, and he just seems to be really unlucky with them.
Yeah. I'd like to see him put his injuries behind him, and from an England point of view, because I do think, like you say, on form, he is one of the best centre midfielders that England could probably put out.
Certainly when he sort of came through at Arsenal, he was really, really good. You thought this guy is going to be, he's going to be an absolute world beater. He's going to be incredible, and he's just unfortunate. I mean, I did notice actually that for the first time in quite a long time, all of Arsenal's footballers came back from international duty without picking up any injuries. So it's like it's a new era at Arsenal. Wenger's gone and no one's getting injured.
I think Wenger didn't really appreciate how much injuries can affect players. From what I've heard from Arsenal players coming out who've been under his management, his training was quite relaxed. There wasn't any sort of impact training in the training sessions. So when it happened in a match, it affected them a lot more than it would a normal footballer, a footballer that does that in training every day. But So I mean, it's an interesting thing that as I said, I hope Jack Wilshere really turns it around. I'd like West Ham as a club. I think they're a club for me in a similar sort of mould to Fulham, is that I don't understand why anyone could really hate West Ham. Obviously, there are some ugly scenes at times with the fans and things, but I think that's more of that was the aggression of a football fan towards the owners, and it just spilt over, didn't it? It's not really aggression in the sense of I don't want to say Millwall, but they always get drawn into aggressive fans, don't they? And Millwall and West Ham, I know, hate each other, but
there's always horrible scenes with those two.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. I've always had the impression of West Ham being quite like a Fulham-esque club for me. Fulham, Josh and I said it on a previous podcast, that Fulham is a club you'll be hard pushed to find anybody that hates Fulham. And I'm like that. I've got no reason to hate West Ham, and I just think I don't want to see West Ham get relegated. They're a team I'd love to continually see in the Premier League and flirting with Europe and things like that. But hopefully that'll happen. Nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, hopefully that'll happen. So, well,
we can only hope, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. So, one last question for you on West Ham before we wrap up the podcast. If you could sign any one player in the world, who would it be to fit into your West Ham team?
I think Sergio Busquets would do, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
lovely.
Okay,
lovely. I think any defensive midfielder of any quality. Who else would be quite nice? Ooh.
Kante?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that would be lovely. Kante would be nice. Fernandinho for Manchester City.
Yeah? Okay.
I think he's very good. Basically, anyone that can play as a decent holding midfielder. Who's some really good holding midfielders?
Nemanja Matic. He's a bit older, but...
Matic would be nice. Can we go for anyone? I mean, if they've never... Because Gattuso, I'd like him.
Yeah, prime Gattuso.
Thomas Gravison, to hark back to earlier on in the show. He'd be great. I think that's what I think. We're only really missing that sort of that part of the team. I mean, yeah, it'd be great if we signed Messi or Aguero or Cristiano Ronaldo. I think realistically, if I were to sign any one player, I think
what it shows is in modern football today how key a holding midfielder or at least a defensive midfielder is, because Arsenal have always struggled when Vieira retired. That's well known, and they finally got this Guendouzi or whatever his name is, and then Torreira as well, who should fill in that.
I really like Go.
Guendouzi guy.
Guendouzi, he looks really good.
And I think obviously Kante has shown how important a holding midfielder can be for France and Chelsea and Leicester, and I think. I think if West Ham did, maybe in the January, that's what will happen.
I think almost certainly that's what we'll be looking for. Like, director football's going to be looking at the moment for defensive midfielders. We've got to get that. Probably another striker, because our strikers. Well, we really only got as an out and out striker, Javier Hernandez.
Yeah. So what's happened? Is Andy Carroll is Andy Carroll dead?
Hopefully they've taken him to the glue factory where they take other lame horses to put down. He's injured again, of course. He's another really frustrating point about West Ham, because he'll come back from injury, score an unbelievable overhead kick against Palace, and then stub his toe and be out for 6 months. Like he's out. I can't remember till when now. In the new year.
Wow.
His contract must be running out now. He must be in his last year. I can't see his contract getting renewed because he just hasn't had the game time.
And he's not a Pellegrini player.
He isn't a player.
Is he? So
we're not gonna lump the ball long to him. We'll put it into his feet and he'll knock it at somebody else. But then he won't be in the box quick enough to get it. So maybe so. A defensive midfielder is more pressing, but also a striker. We do need a striker. We've got Perez, I suppose, as well. Actually, Lucas Perez could be quite good.
That's true. We haven't seen too much of him yet.
No, a lot of Arsenal fans were quite, annoyed that he wasn't given as bigger opportunity, because he's a goal scorer, and that's what we need. We need someone who's going to put it in the goal.
Interestingly, on Perez, as Josh isn't here, I'll do a little fact for you. Only one player had more assists in La Liga last year than Perez, and that was Lionel Messi.
Really?
Yep.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm happy for him to give us assists as well. That's fine.
Yeah, just give the ball to Arnautovic or Hernandez and someone will score. Yeah.
Yeah, just more goals.
There we go. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on. As I say, hopefully in the future,
thanks for having me.
we can get it to be a bit more regular, and it's been very good. It's been very good. I love hearing other chats. I mean, Josh has probably heard quite a lot of Man United fans or people chat about Man United, but I'm pretty sure he was sort of like me on the other end of this one today. It's great to hear other fans talk so in depth about their clubs and things like that, because especially someone like West Ham, where I don't being out in Singapore now, I don't get to read too much about them or watch them too often and see too much about it. So to hear it like that and get you to answer my questions was really good. I really enjoyed it. So yeah. Thanks very much. But we'll end it there. We'll end the podcast there. I've had a really good time doing it. It's been really good. If you've liked it, leave a like on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Leave I don't know what it is on SoundCloud. Leave a comment that just said you liked it on SoundCloud. I don't know. What? Can you like a video on SoundCloud? Yes, you can. You can get a little heart and click the heart. So do that if you've enjoyed it on SoundCloud. Give us a heart. Follow us on Twitter. We are Football Talk, but there's no A in football. And Owen, if you want to say your goodbye and farewells, now's your chance.
Thank you very much, and goodbye and farewells.
There we go. And for now, we're out. We'll catch you next week. We're done. Cheers.